Welcome to our channel, where incredible stories unfold every day. We're so glad you're here with us. Before we dive into today's amazing story, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and let us know your city or country. It's always exciting to see how stories can bring us all together from different corners of the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's special story. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Now let's jump into today's adventure. Royal Guard catches iced coffee in midair. Ethan Williams, a 28-year-old social media influencer, stood outside Buckingham Palace, his heart racing with excitement. Today was the day he was going to pull off the ultimate prank for his 500,000 followers. He had done pranks before, of course, but this one was going to be legendary. He glanced around at the tourists milling about, their attention distracted by the majestic palace. But his eyes were set on one target, the Royal Guard. Ethan grinned, the plan already forming in his mind. His followers loved his bold and outrageous pranks, and today he was going to deliver something truly unforgettable. The Royal Guard, Oliver Davis, a 30-year-old stationed at the palace, stood like a statue at his post. He had faced countless tourists, countless stares, and countless ridiculous moments in his years of service. But he had never faced anything like this. His focus was unwavering as he stood motionless, gazing straight ahead, his posture perfect. A gentle breeze swayed the trees nearby, and the soft murmur of tourists filled the air, but nothing could distract him from his duty. Meanwhile, Ethan saw the crowd was beginning to grow, but he wasn't deterred. He had already scoped out the area. His plan was simple: approach the guard, make a joke, and boom, a cold, refreshing iced coffee straight in the face. It would be hilarious. Ethan's followers would eat it up. He could already imagine the reactions, the comments flooding in, the likes pouring in from around the world. With his phone in hand, Ethan sauntered toward Oliver. The guard stood firm, not even acknowledging Ethan's presence. Ethan, grinning like a schoolboy, raised the cup of iced coffee. Ready for a little fun? He thought. But what happened next was not what he expected. Oliver, without moving a muscle, caught the cup in mid-air, stopping it in its tracks before a single drop could touch his uniform. The crowd gasped. Phones clicked, capturing the breathtaking moment as Oliver held the cup perfectly still, not a drop spilled. Ethan froze, his bravado crumbling as he realized what had just happened. This wasn't just a prank gone wrong. It was an unexpected show of skill and discipline that would leave everyone stunned. And this was just the beginning. Ethan stood there, frozen for a moment, as his prank was halted in midair. The coffee cup, which had been on its way to splash across the Royal Guard's uniform, was now firmly held in Oliver Davis's hand, not a drop of liquid escaping. The crowd around them erupted into shocked exclamations, but Ethan's mind was racing. What had just happened? How had Oliver caught the cup so perfectly, without a single movement that Ethan could see? The feeling of triumph that had been building in Ethan quickly evaporated, replaced by embarrassment. His prank, which had seemed like a harmless joke, had just been effortlessly stopped by the Royal Guard. For a brief second, all Ethan could hear was the hum of the crowd and the sound of his own breath. He'd expected laughter, maybe a little frustration, but never this. As the shock settled in, the weight of the moment hit him. His phone, which had been recording the entire time, now captured his wide-eyed expression of disbelief. Oliver stood there, calm and composed, holding the coffee cup with a steady hand. He didn't look at Ethan, didn't even acknowledge the prank. His posture remained perfect, his gaze unwavering. The moment felt surreal. For Ethan, this was no longer about the prank. It was about respect. The respect Oliver had for his role as a royal guard, the respect for his training and composure under pressure, and the respect for the history behind the uniform. Ethan glanced around, and for the first time, he noticed the crowd's shift in energy. The laughter that had been bubbling up during his antics slowly died down, replaced by a quiet reverence. People weren't just watching anymore. They were processing what had just occurred. They were watching the guard with a sense of awe, and they were watching Ethan, who was now at the center of a moment far beyond his control. The prank, which had been intended to make Ethan the star of the moment, now made him look like the fool. His followers would see this, but it wouldn't be the viral stunt he had imagined. This wasn't just about a funny moment. It was a lesson in humility, in respecting tradition, and in understanding the true meaning behind the role of a royal guard. The camera still rolled, but it was no longer capturing Ethan's moment of fame. It was now capturing his realization of his own mistake. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. Ethan was still processing what had just happened, his mind scrambling to make sense of it. The crowd had shifted. What had been a playful, amused atmosphere now felt heavy, uncomfortable. The once eager tourists who had been filming with excitement now exchanged uneasy glances. The initial shock of Ethan's failed prank slowly gave way to an understanding that was too real to ignore. Ethan's confidence, which had been so bold moments earlier, had crumbled under the weight of Oliver's composure. Oliver's hands remained steady as he held the iced coffee, the cup a silent testament to the control he maintained. He hadn't flinched, hadn't moved an inch. His unwavering stillness in the face of provocation now seemed like an impenetrable wall, leaving Ethan exposed and vulnerable. For the first time, Ethan felt the gravity of his actions. He had crossed a line. What he thought would be a harmless prank had become an encounter that, in the blink of an eye, had shifted the energy from amusement to reflection. As Ethan's bravado dissolved, a low murmur rippled through the crowd. The onlookers were no longer laughing. They were processing the scene they had just witnessed. The elderly man in the veteran's cap had been the first to speak up, his voice cutting through the tension. "That uniform represents something greater than you or me," he had said, his words carrying the weight of history and honor. For a fleeting moment, Ethan had felt the sting of his own disrespect. The crowd's reaction wasn't just uncomfortable for him, it was a reminder of something far bigger, of the tradition, discipline, and honor that came with being a royal guard. The realization hit Ethan hard. He wasn't just facing embarrassment. He was facing the fact that his actions had undermined something valuable, something that couldn't be reduced to a viral video or cheap entertainment. The crowd, divided in their reactions, now stood in quiet awe of Oliver's stoic response. While some continued to record, their tone had changed. No one was laughing now. Even the younger tourists who had once cheered Ethan on seemed to understand the magnitude of what had happened. Ethan's phone, still recording, captured not a moment of triumph, but a lesson in humility, a lesson he would never forget. Ethan's mind raced as the reality of the situation began to sink in. He had thought he was playing a harmless prank, a moment of lighthearted fun for his followers, but now he realized he had crossed a line. The viral fame he'd hoped for seemed so distant now, replaced by a rising tide of discomfort and regret. The crowd around him had shifted. The nervous laughter had died down, replaced by hushed whispers and questioning glances. Ethan's phone was still recording, but the excited comments he had anticipated seemed to vanish in the wake of what had just unfolded. Oliver, the royal guard, remained unmoved, holding the iced coffee with the kind of precision that spoke of years of training. His gaze stayed fixed, and his posture remained flawless, as if nothing had happened. But the power of his stillness, his unbroken focus, was the most powerful response he could have given. There was no anger in his eyes, no sign of frustration, just quiet professionalism. The crowd could sense it. The respect for the Royal Guard's duty and dedication grew by the second. They weren't just witnessing a simple stunt gone wrong. They were seeing the power of composure under pressure. Ethan's friends, who had been cheering him on moments ago, had fallen silent, watching the unfolding scene with growing unease. The cheers of support for the prank were now replaced with nervous glances. The elderly man with the veteran's cap, who had warned Ethan earlier, now stood among the crowd, his stern face betraying a deep disapproval. He had seen what this uniform represented, the weight it carried, and he wasn't the only one who noticed. The once bustling atmosphere of Buckingham Palace had shifted. The lively chatter, the casual excitement of the tourists, it all seemed to fade away as the gravity of the situation settled in. Ethan could feel it, the collective shift of perspective. What had seemed like an innocent prank had now become a moment of reckoning. People weren't just witnessing a man being made a fool of. They were witnessing a reminder of the values and respect that went into the duty of a royal guard. The uniform was more than just an outfit. It was a symbol of honor, tradition, and sacrifice. Ethan's cocky demeanor faltered. His once vibrant confidence had melted away, replaced by a wave of realization that left him speechless. His eyes darted from the stoic guard to the crowd, and the embarrassment was now impossible to ignore. The realization of his mistake wasn't just a moment of personal humiliation. It was a lesson about respect, dignity, and the true meaning behind the uniform he had mocked. The prank had spiraled out of control, but in that moment, Ethan understood that the consequences went far beyond anything his followers could ever appreciate. The reality of the situation hit Ethan like a tidal wave. The playful banter he'd expected to fuel his social media empire had completely unraveled, leaving him standing there, exposed and humiliated. His phone, still recording, was no longer capturing a hilarious prank. It had become a silent witness to his mistake, an echo of his miscalculation. The crowd's shift in energy was undeniable. No one was laughing now. People once amused now looked at him with a mix of discomfort and silent judgment. His friends, who had cheered him on, were now looking away, their excitement replaced by awkward glances. The laughter from the crowd had faded, and in its place was an uncomfortable stillness, one that made Ethan realize the full weight of what he had done. Oliver, the royal guard, stood unfazed, his composure unbroken. He hadn't moved a muscle when Ethan's iced coffee was tossed at him. Yet his calmness spoke volumes. The power of his silence was almost tangible. Oliver didn't need to say anything. His presence alone was enough to remind everyone around him of the dignity and respect his uniform commanded. As the realization set in, Ethan understood that he had misjudged the situation entirely. What he had seen as a prank, a moment for the camera, was actually a profound demonstration of discipline and honor. The uniform wasn't just a costume. It was a symbol of sacrifice, duty, and centuries of tradition. The elderly veteran who had intervened earlier now seemed to stand as a silent figure of authority. His words had struck Ethan with unexpected force, reminding him of the deeper meaning behind the Royal Guard's role. The crowd, once divided, now seemed united in their understanding. People began to murmur amongst themselves, some still recording, but now their eyes were filled with something more than curiosity: respect. As for Ethan, the transformation was clear. The cocky, overconfident young man who had set out to make a viral video was now replaced by someone who understood the gravity of his actions. His smirk had faded, replaced by a look of genuine remorse. The crowd, too, had shifted. What had started as an innocent prank was now a public lesson in respect. Ethan was no longer the center of attention for his antics, but for the lesson he had inadvertently taught everyone watching. In that moment, he realized the true cost of disrespect. And it wasn't just a failed prank. It was a deep, lasting lesson about dignity, responsibility, and the consequences of mocking tradition. Thank you for watching this incredible story unfold. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what happened here. How do you think Ethan handled the situation after his prank backfired? Do you think the lesson about respect and dignity came through loud and clear? Have you ever been in a position where a simple joke or prank turned into something much bigger than expected? What's your take on how the Royal Guard maintained his composure under such provocation? We also want to know, how do you view pranks in public spaces? Is there a line that shouldn't be crossed, or are all pranks fair game? Let us know in the comments below. This incident has sparked a lot of conversations about cultural respect, tradition, and the role of social media influencers. We want to hear your perspective on this. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. We've got more incredible moments, lessons, and conversations waiting for you. Thank you for your support. Your comments and feedback mean the world to us. Let's keep the conversation going.